One. Good evening and welcome back to another episode, or the second episode of Podcast 34. I'm with a very seasoned gentleman within the security industry. I think he's done it all: retail, events, sports, a community officer, anything you can think of. And I'd like to welcome a colleague, a friend, Mr. Jonny Cavey.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. It's a pleasure seeing you again after all this time.
Always. So we'll start off. Me and Jonny met. We were both area managers at a door supervisor company, weren't we? That's relatively well known, based in Norwich. And you were born. Oh, I was Bournemouth, sorry. And you were Southampton, weren't you? And then.
Yeah, that's correct. And then, we ended up taking on other areas as well.
And we certainly had some interesting stories. So I think we should get right into it. So tell us one of your inmost. We're basically we're not going to do anything serious. We're going to have a laugh, try and tell you some funny stories that we've been through. So I'm going to let Jonny kick off.
I think one that stands in my mind. Oh dear.
Come on, spill the tea, Jonny, spill the tea.
I think the one that stands out more than anything, and I don't think I'll ever forget it for as long as I live, was when I was doing site visits in Southampton, and one of the venues was KFC. So every weekend, including football days, there was a doorman on at KFC. Now, I knew that this certain doorman, who I'm not going to name, was there. So I went and done this site visit. So I thought, where is he? I can't see him anywhere. So I went over to another venue, which was opposite, and I spoke to the HD there. And I said to him, have you seen such and such? And he goes, oh no, he's definitely there. I said, well, where is he then? And he goes, have you tried the kitchen? And I said, what do you mean the kitchen?
What, the kitchen is in where they cook the food?
Yeah, where they cook the food. It goes to me, have you tried the kitchen? And I said, well, why would I try the kitchen? I said, when he's meant to be out on the fucking front door. And I said to him, well, you better come with me and show me then. So he came off his venue, and we went plodding over, walked in KFC, just stood in the doorway, and I looked over, and he had 2 frying baskets in his hand, this doorman. And I said to him, I froze for a minute because I didn't know what to say because I was so shocked. I said to him, what the fuck are you doing in there? And he goes to me, oh, I'm helping out in the kitchen. I said, oh, are you now? I said, I thought you were meant to be on the fucking front door here.
So what? So this guy, the security guard, was meant to be doing a security shift. He's frying chicken and whatever.
He's frying chicken, then offers me a burger. So, that's going to really smooth everything over when he's meant to be working the door of the venue and getting paid for it.
I mean, there's always a debate about doormen clearing glasses and whether they should or shouldn't in the venue. But
I personally think
cooking chicken is taking it a bit too.
I think it's always good, the doorman clearing glasses in the venue, because you can go around and see who's about inside the venue.
And if it's more or less weaponry as well.
Yeah, but for someone who's not meant to be in the kitchen, so all the risk assessment had to be changed for that venue, where I had to stipulate in big capital letters, so everyone could understand it clearly, that you are not allowed in the kitchen.
I mean, it was certainly, that role was a tough gig, I think, for both of us, emotionally, mentally, but we did have some laughs, but sometimes the role, it was more than a manager, wasn't it? Sometimes you're a social worker, sometimes you're a firefighter, and obviously we didn't get every decision right. But.
No, this is the problem, I've been in the industry for well over 20 plus years. You are never going to make the right decision with anything, and you're always learning, and this is where despite whether you've been in the industry 20, 30, 40 years, every doorman that's old school will tell you the same thing, that you're always learning. And it's always good to learn off others,
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
they've been in the job 5 years, because they might come up with an idea that you haven't thought of.
Yeah. Well, my foster granddad always gave me an anecdote, and he used to say to me, "The day you stop learning is the day you die."
Yeah.
And that job that we had at that company, obviously some people know how it ended, and I was pleased to know that I'm on good terms with them again. But it did teach or taught me a hell of a lot. You know,
Yeah.
sort of pushed into the fire, shall we say, because due to circumstances there was no handover available, so it was just on the ground running, and so many problems that you didn't think about, and you know, dealing with, or not just not just dealing with doormen, but dealing with their families and
Well, this is it. Is some of the excuses that I've heard over the years about why door staff can't turn up for their shifts is like,
yeah,
it baffles me.
bingo
But,
card, isn't it?
yeah.
On a Friday night, on
You
a Friday
know,
afternoon.
It's damage and limitation.
Yeah.
It gets to a certain hour of that day from between 5 to 7,
Yeah.
and that's when you've got the problems over the
Yeah.
weekend, where everyone starts pulling out their shifts. But it's constant playing chess. So you
Yeah,
have to look at
definitely.
the bigger picture and have a look to see where you've got like the bigger venues where you can try and move doormen around.
Yeah.
Now, when you're dealing with big clients, it is hard to try and please them all,
Yeah.
because they're on your back
The
constantly.
thing is, because every client thinks they're the most important, which obviously is fair enough. But we've got safety. You know, we've got to think of people's safety, and
You have, and this is where I refuse to put any one-man doors.
100%.
I've seen so many dangers over the years of these one-man doors, and this is where, with some of the clients that we had to deal with, I said to them, it's a minimum of 2.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't have one-man doors anymore, and this is where, the industry's changed, the nighttime economy's changed.
Yeah.
And it's changed big time. There's a lot of nightclubs that have gone. There's not any super clubs anymore like there used to be. They've all died.
No.
So they're all late night venues.
You look at Bournemouth. You know, Halo's gone, Revs has gone. I know Revs is reopening up, but the picture seems to be mirrored across the UK.
It is. This is the problem.
And we're getting a lot of towns now, like where we are in Bognor, that don't even have any nightclubs anymore.
No, it's you can blame COVID for it, but if you look at the fuller picture about it, there's the 18-year-olds that are now, like the generation that are coming into it, aren't spending the money drinking either.
No.
So they're more health conscious.
Yeah,
They don't want to go out spending money on drink, and it's so cheap now to go to the supermarket and buy 3 crates for £24 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
They pre-drink and they don't spend the money out like they used
And
to.
the other things as well, like it's a lot easier with things like Spotify, YouTube, to have your own party. You can get a decent speaker now in somewhere like Home Bargains for 80 quid. Or some probably even cheaper than that. Spotify and YouTube, play your own music, like you say, the free drink. So I think a lot of the work now, but it's certainly what I enjoy the most, is in going sort of shifting to the event world. I think that's where security is picking up, is more events rather than like the nighttime economy.
It is. This is the thing. You're getting a lot of newer festivals that are coming to light. It's from say May onwards, you're inundated with work.
Yeah.
And the event side is where I find where you make your most money.
Yeah. Definitely.
You've got probably 4, 5, maybe 6 months of that year where you're going to get work constantly with events. And, the door world has changed quite a lot.
I mean, that happened to me this year. I sort of came out the industry back end of last year and sort of telling into this year for various personal reasons and people causing me issues and stuff like that. And I just decided to pull myself away from it and ended up doing an event in Bristol Marathon, and basically after that, I lived in a suitcase for 6 months, just bouncing around.
Yeah.
You know, but the nice thing about it is just meeting different people, different events, different stuff. You get to see.
You know, this is a good thing about what you've just said. You know, it's exploring different avenues.
Yeah.
And you know, meeting all these new people and exploring like a different side to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, like I said, there's so many festivals about now.
Yeah.
You know, it just used to be like the basic ones, like Isle of Wight, Glastonbury, Reading Festival, Leeds Festival. But there's so many other ones that have popped up now. Like, okay, they're not as big, but they're popular.
Yeah, but like the one we did in Eastleigh this year.
Yeah.
That was the one that you and I run. That was a great little.
Yeah, it was.
Great little event. It wasn't too big.
No.
It wasn't too small. Good crowd, and that's the type of direction I think that we're going to. But that DS company we work for, we did come across some characters, shall we say, some interesting characters. I remember, obviously, we used to be in the office every Monday, didn't we? And it was a laugh, but some of the phone calls. I think you had the brunt of it actually, but. I remember taking over one of your phone calls because you couldn't.
I lost it. I couldn't cope with talking anymore.
we're not going to mention the guy's name, but he was certainly an interesting bloke. He was very eager. Now I get accused of being Robocop because I have a lot of kit, but I think this guy took it to the absolute limits, didn't he? Didn't he have 2 sets of handcuffs or something? And
well, let's just say it makes the NYPD look tame. So, you know, there's definitely some stories out there.
Yeah, I remember this particular gentleman. He broke a fire exit. Is that right? In one of the venues, and he rang you up. And then I took over the phone call, and I just. It's not very professional myself, because I got cracked. I was laughing so much, and then I fell over, collapsed into one of the boxes. And I blacked out for about a minute, and then obviously Jonny and another colleague of ours was, "You're right, Josh. And the guy on the other end of the phone
is still talking.
Yeah. And then you had another one. Oh no, it was the person's wife, wasn't it? Asking for money, or?
Just you know, I've had to get involved with marriage counselling as well. You know, you're being an AM for like a national door company, and then you're getting involved with personal disputes. You know, where you're getting like interrogated by their other halves about why that you're not giving them any work, or why he can't turn up for work when, you know, these certain people need to speak for themselves.
Yeah. And sometimes venues don't fit people, or vice versa. And there's been times when, you know, you've done it and I've done it, where we've had to pull people off the doors and haven't necessarily agreed with it, but it's a clash with the client.
It is, and this is the thing, you know, at the end of the day, when you're working alongside big chains, you know, you've got to please the GM of the venue.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need to keep them sweet, or you're going to end up getting repercussions off area managers.
Yeah.
The lot. So, you know, it's not always that we agree, but it's trying to make the right decision to try and keep everyone happy.
Yeah, which is near but impossible.
It is, you know, you're never going to please everyone. This is the problem. And this is where the security world is, you know, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I came out of lockdown and worked on a COVID test site. I've done a few events before that, so obviously I got badged in 19. Done my first event with a company called KSS, great company up in Manchester. But I was doing work on the side as well for this company, and COVID came and I got a message saying, you want to be a head door for Revolutions because they're opening in Bournemouth? And I thought, yeah, why not? I've tested myself. Unfortunately, someone else was told that they were head door as well. So there was a bit of a communication problem which caused a few issues. But again, communication is key.
Yeah, this is the thing, and you know, you've got too many people getting involved and telling information to one person and saying something to another. You know, this is where the problem lies, and this is why I've always said about it's difficult to try and arrange things on the phone where you've got to arrange things in person and have meetings.
Yeah.
You know, I make an effort to go and do site visits, and you know, make sure that the doorman, like, you know, that you're looking after them.
100%.
And you know,
100%.
they're your soldiers on the ground at the end of the day, and making sure that they're happy and doing welfare checks on them is the most important thing.
The thing is, a lot of this job, you know, is, I'm not saying we're as trained or in the category, but saying similar to police officers in the terms of it's underpaid, I think in most people's opinion. It's unsocial hours. Most roles within security are unsocial hours. You know, there's a lot of stress going on. You're basically being abused week in, week out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, you know, mental trauma there, and people, I think, could very easily burn out.
Yeah.
And it's trying to see them signs before people do burn out and making sure they are taking the time off, because it is very easy when you're stressed and you're short, like you say, someone pulled out last minute to phone someone up and say, can you work? But that might be the 10th, the 11th day they've worked in a row.
It is, and I've always, it's like going back to when I was HD of like big nightclubs, for instance. You know, I used to handpick my own doorman for my venues, because we've all worked well together and we all gel together. I know what each doorman's like. And a lot of my door team had 10 plus years experience. And making sure that I done welfare checks on them, like I used to make sure like every month I sat down with each doorman and made sure mentally they were all right. And it gave them chance to them to open up to me if they had any problems.
We used that at that company, didn't we? So we had we started, so when we decided to merge our areas together, and we done drop-in sessions. So you know, because obviously we've always got paperwork to do, so we'll sit in a venue, one of our own venues, do the paperwork, and then people could drop in, because, like you say, like we were doing marriage counselling, there was lots of personal issues.
Yeah, there are, and this is the thing, and mental health has played, you know, plays a big part in like everyone's life, and it's important to make sure that your staff know that you're there and you're at the end of the phone to support them with anything. And you know, a lot of things that people don't want to discuss in front of everyone else. So this is why it was important when I was HD that I had one-to-one. Because we used to have debriefs at the end of every night, people don't want to open up about things in front of everyone else. Which you have to sit there and listen to what they have to say and try and resolve things.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, 100% agree with you there. But also coming back to handpicking your team and stuff like that. When we're doing events and things like that, it's about having a balanced team.
Yeah, it is.
You know, because you obviously you got to have the physical attributes of being able to physically get involved. But now, again, similar to the police, our roles, if you like, are changing. You know, it's not just security now; it's security, it's customer service, it's counselling, it's welfare, and that's for the customers as well. You know, so you have to have a demographic of people to be able to deal with the welfare side of things, that can, you know, console the crying girlfriend, or can chat to the angry boyfriend that's been cheated on, or, you know, there's so many different variables now than what there was.
You know, I can remember times, you know, going back, don't know how long ago it was now, but it's when you had all the spiking incidents.
Yeah, it was a couple of years back.
A couple of years back, and I was like running a venue in Brighton at the time. So I used my initiative, and I thought what we'll end up doing, we used to do searching anyway, but what we done is I stepped it up. So I had 2 DSs, one searching the males, another one searching females, like a female door supervisor. So what we were doing is everyone had to empty their pockets into a tray, like at the airport. They all got patted down, wallets got looked through. We were pulling out drugs left, right and centre. You know, we used to find credit card knives on people, the lot. And, you know, we had a good rapport with licensing and everything. And we used to get a lot of off-duty police officers come in. And you don't know they're off-duty until they empty their pockets and they've got their warrant cards on them. And, you know, the amount of feedback we had to say that they felt safe. And customers felt safe coming in because they knew that we was up in the game. And like introduced more protocols into the venue and stopped all the trouble out on that front door. You know, so we didn't have it inside.
It's easier to block someone on the front door.
It is, because the last thing you want to do is be dealing with big brawls inside a venue.
Because your element of risk just goes up tenfold, because risk to the doorman, risk to other customers that aren't involved in that side of things. That, you know, if you can, like you say, stop at the front door and put in these policies and the aptitude tests and, you know, what the industry likes to call your soft skills. That's, you know, helps, I think, big time.
It does, and the thing is with me, I like to keep all the paperwork up to date. So I used to log absolutely everything. So when the doorman used to find drugs on someone, they used to hand it over to me. I used to log it on a separate sheet and then put it into the door book. So at the end of the night, I could tally up how much there was, get the manager at the venue to sign off to say I've handed it over to them to put in the drug safe. And then licensers used to come and empty it, but we used to fill up the drug safe.
Which I know, because there's a lot of few GMs that don't want that type of thing, so they think it brings bad, you know, rep to the venue and stuff like that. But if you speak to licensing and the police and things like that, they'd rather you do that because you're being proactive and causes less problems for us, less problems for them, and less problems for, you know, the health service as well.
But this is the thing, you know, it's always a fine line. You're never going to stop drugs getting into a venue. You're always going to have it. It's always going to be about. But if you can, like, reduce, like, how much is going in a venue, and be on the ball, and have the right doorman on that front door, knocking back the trouble, and you know,
and eventually, word gets round.
It does,
And so one of the clubs in Bournemouth that I've done a bit of work for, off and on, Cameo, and they have quite good front door procedures. They have scanners, everyone gets searched on the way in, and they get their fair share of trouble, but they've got a capacity of 1,200 people. So it's a numbers game. But what there's the amount of searching they do and the stuff that gets stopped, and eventually people just don't bother. You know, and if you can have good procedures in place, it's that in itself is a deterrent to stop people coming in the first place.
Well, exactly, and you know, I think it definitely helps, and it helps to have the right people on that front door. As well, it's like, you know,
it's that right balance, isn't it? You want someone that's confident and is not going to take any shit. But you also don't want someone that's just going to be aggressive and miserable, because then again it's just going to up them. And
you know, at the end of the day, the first, you know, it's the customer experience. You know, you want to make sure that the customer has a good time in the venue, and you want to make sure they come back and spend the money.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
it keeps us all in a job.
This is one of the things that makes me laugh the most. You know, how many times have you heard it when we remove someone from a venue, or we remove them from an event for intox or fighting or whatever said reason, and they've sort of gone, oh, you're picking on me, or you don't like me, so you want me to go. Well, no, we want everyone in here spending money.
Yeah.
You know, we don't randomly going to start removing people. You know, at the end of it, you know, if that we rely on that business to succeed for our wages to get paid.
Well, exactly. You know, this is it, and you know, you've got to think about health and safety aspect inside a venue. If you've got someone who's clearly intoxicated in a licensed premises, and they need to leave, then they have to go, and it means that you have to keep hold of them until you can find that they've got friends.
Safe route home.
You know, the whole like approach to how door work's changed over the years is, you know, it's gone from like the old days of where you used to throw people head first through a front door to more customer service. And like, you adapt your own way. You do. And it's important to have the right balance. You know, you want to make sure that people are safe when they leave. And you've got a duty of care to make sure that they're safe when they leave.
100%.
You know, it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female or what. They're inside your venue. You need to make sure at the end of the night that they're not wandering off into the unknown on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
And making sure that they get back safely. And if it means that you know, you have to call them a taxi. And, you know, make sure that they get in the taxi, then you're satisfied at the end of the day. You've done your bit.
Again, this is where a good doorman uses their initiative, because that's when you start building relationships with. It's not just building relationships with licensing; it's building relationships with taxi drivers.
Oh, it is.
With kebab shops, with other venues, doormen from other venues. You know, regardless of what company they work for. You know, at the end of the day, you're all doing the same job, and you're all there to keep people safe. So if you can utilise, so I'll give you one example. I had an ejection at Leeds. Was it? Yeah, I think it was Leeds Fest. Yeah, Leeds, and but it was also a welfare concern. So it was a highly autistic 17-year-old. Obviously, I'm not going to go into details, but needed picking up. The ejections team that were responsible for that were just absolutely slapped, and there was about a 2-hour wait on it because it wasn't, you know, urgent. It was safe type thing, but he was getting more and more agitated. And I bumped into a friend of mine who owns another company, and their remit is completely different. Their remit is looking after all the bars and stuff like that. However, because I had a rapport with this person, even though they worked with or owned a different company, they helped out. We got him in the van, so it was me, him, and his wife. Took him to his mum, problem solved. And that's again where I think relationship building in this industry is so key and so critical. And it's not just about looking at, you know, it's about working with other people from other companies, other industries, and just getting the job done. Really.
It is, and when you're working alongside like multi-agencies as well, like the police, the ambulance service, you know, licensing, you know, you all work well together. And it's working well together that gets results at the end of the day.
Definitely.
And, you know, communication's the key to anything, and making sure that you go to these, you know, like BCRP meetings and things like that. And
but also, I think working with multi-agents, private and public, you can also use that to learn so much. So, you know, I was very privileged to do a couple of governmental jobs this year, and I know you've done one of them as well, where I got to or you know, it wasn't working alongside them, but it's still working with them, RASPA and PADP and stuff like that. So I got to see how they work, and obviously they are the cream of the crop. So even if I can take 1% of what they're doing, that's going to enrich, you know, my knowledge, or working with CTFOs, AFOs, or even just normal police officers.
Yeah, no,
you know,
exactly.
And also again working with other security companies. There's going to be things that they do that you might think, well, that's a bit pants, but there are also going to be things they do that you think, oh, that's good. And there's so many times where I've sort of amalgamated where this company's done that, this company's done that, this company's done that, the police do that, kind of taken the highlights, if you will, and used it on tasks or how I run tasks myself. Used that one.
You know, this is a good way of working at the end of the day, because then you can adapt it how you want to adapt it, because you've learned to see things in a different aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
As well, and you know, this is where it's important. It is to try and get it right, and making sure that you've got everything in place, like, and you've got all the procedures there to follow. And
definitely, this is also a thing that I learned about experience. When people say they've had 10, 15 years experience in the industry. But what I've learned is there's a difference in having 15 years in experience doing one door in the same town for 15 years, or someone that's done 6 or 7 years, but multiple events, multiple doors, multiple, you know, places, working with multiple people. And then building that knowledge base and that network and just using it to your advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, how many times have we had a phone call, well, can you help out with this, or can you help out with that? We've managed to make it happen.
Well, this is it, because you don't want to disappoint people. I know there's, you know, it does come to a point where you might have to, like, you can't fulfil something.
Yeah, but if someone rings you up 6 o'clock on a Saturday night and says, do you have 2 doormen? The chances are it's probably going to be no.
No, but this is it, you know, you get to a certain time in the evening and it's hard to pull things out of a hat, but you know, but it has been done, but it's just
by a miracle.
Yeah, by miracles, and we've all done it. You've sorted it out before, like pull things out of the hat at the last minute. I've done it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I remember one event we done this year at Cambridge. It was a high-end event for a high-end client. There were overseas client visiting Cambridge, and it was a complicated project because there was various things happening at various times. And one of the events was across different pubs. So it was a private function, and basically we needed doormen, but it wasn't a proper door job. They were there to check accreditation. So you just tell the members of the public it's a private event, check they've got the right accreditation, and it was good money for what it was. We had these blokes turn up, £15 an hour, so not bad. And they refused to do it, and they turned up and said, £15 an hour for working a door in Cambridge is not enough. And you know, mine and my bosses, because we were sort of running the task together, our arseholes started going, and thankfully, again, going back to having that network, I managed to put a couple of things in a couple of groups, and managed to, you know, within half an hour, I had boots on the ground.
This is it, and you know, you've got your like networking in the security industries, you know, it's quite unique, really. You've got a lot of contact. You know, I know a lot of people, and you know, being well respected in this industry, it's a plus as well.
The thing is, when I always had this thing of wanting to be liked by everybody, and if someone didn't like me or started saying things about me, it would affect me. But now it's water off the duck's back, because like we've applied, yes, I've made mistakes as well, but I think there's no human on this planet that hasn't. But like you say, you're never going to please everyone. You're never going to get on with everybody.
No, exactly.
You know, so if people don't like me or they don't like you, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we get ourselves up, we can carry on. and move forward.
Yeah, exactly. You know, this is the thing, and this is what you end up having to do.
But a good test is how much is if you're always at work, I think you're doing something right.
Oh yeah,
You know, especially if you're freelancing and you've always got that work coming through and it's consistent, and you've got them calls coming in and messages coming in, then you're doing something right somewhere.
Oh yeah, definite. Yeah, and this is it. You know, this is the most important thing is you know, getting that right balance.
Yeah, definitely. Having a laugh about it as well.
You know, at the end of the day, right, the job's tough enough as it is, so you've got to enjoy yourself whilst being at work.
Yeah.
But do the job, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no point being miserable turning up to a venue because you just make everyone else miserable.
Yeah, and you make yourself miserable as well.
So, you know, it's important, and, you know, the customers can see it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I think it causes you less problems. Because if you're on the door, or you're again at an event, same applies, and you're having a bit of a laugh with the customer, you're smiling, you're happy, they're more likely to engage with you in the first place. They're more likely to feel comfortable telling you something if something needs to be, you know, said. And I think you're going to get less chance of people being aggressive towards you or any of your colleagues.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And even when it comes to ejections, there's a way in which you can do ejections where it doesn't cause confrontation. Now, obviously, there's always going to be that one or two dicks that, you know, you're just going to fight.
Yeah.
You know, that's the risk element's always there. But sometimes you can eject someone, shake their hand, and have a laugh at them. You know, say, "Oh, mate, I think it's time for you to go to the kebab shop and go home." You know, and have a joke with them. And 9 times out of 10, they'll go, "Yeah, fair enough," and walk out the door with you.
This is it. At the end of the day, you know, I've always said, and you know, I've worked with some brilliant door staff. You know, I've learned off some really good door staff.
Yeah.
And some of them I still work with now, and I've got a lot of respect for them.
Yeah.
And I always will. Is 99% hands off.
Yeah.
Unless you really have to.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And you know, at the end of the day, you don't want to be doing instant reports in your own time. You don't want to be going down the police station.
You don't want to be in the dock and have
like
to answer
at 3 in the
questions.
morning.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to be had up in the dock.
Yeah.
You know, I know sometimes you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
You know, now and again stuff does happen.
Like that bar in Eastleigh we worked.
Yeah. You know, that was renowned.
Yeah.
And
But we cleared it up.
yeah.
Like, again, coming back to what we said earlier, once we stopped letting in the certain individuals who were causing the problems, eventually people stopped going there and went somewhere else, I guess.
Well, what you end up having to do is that you have to make the effort to actually, even though I've worked a lot of these venues anyway, is that you have to go around them.
Yeah.
When you take over as an area manager, you've got to go around all the venues, you've got to introduce yourself, you've got to let people know who you are, and you've got to see what door staff you have to work with. And I've had to tweak things.
Well, the thing is, this is, I think, why both our areas were doing really well, and unfortunately, due to, I guess, operational demands of the company, they started pulling me out of my area, and the doorman got the up with me, because I wasn't in the area to listen or mitigate to their problems. I was then out in a venue elsewhere, working the door, so I couldn't be on my phone all the time, and then that's when it, I think, started to fall apart, and you know, morale, because I worked very hard to sort of regain morale, and I think I was turning a corner and then something else would crop up and then you're back to square one.
You know, this is the thing, you know, you could have 2-3 mobile phones going all at the same time.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
when you're trying to, you know, you've got a gap in a venue and you've got to put yourself in that venue to fill the gap.
Yeah, but unfortunately there's only one of you.
Yeah, there's only one of you. If you could split yourself into about 20 different pieces, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. But, you know, it's trying to please everyone. And, you know, like I say, unfortunately, you can't make every venue happy.
No.
And there's always going to be a problem.
No, exactly.
But you want to do your best and work as hard as you can
Yeah.
to get things sorted out and deal with things so next time things will be better.
Yeah, 100%. So what are you up to now at the moment then? So obviously you've done events, you've done doors, you know, so what's your job role, shall we say, at the moment?
So my job role at the moment is I do security in all the town centres, mainly in Bognor.
Okay.
So I work with a lot of like multi-agencies like the police,
Yeah.
like council, and I help dealing with shoplifting ASB in the town centre.
Yeah.
Now I've built up a good rapport with, you know, all the staff in the shops, even the offenders.
Yeah.
I'm well respected by them. I know it sounds bizarre, but it's just
again comes back to networking and building them relationships and making your job easier.
And you know, it is hard work sometimes, and you know, you've been here working with me, and we had a week from hell.
Yeah, it was a baptism of fire, I'll give you that.
It is an eye opener, because you're not just dealing with shoplifting, you're dealing with all kinds of things. And you know, unfortunately there was an incident that someone took their life that we had to deal with.
And I don't think, even in the police, I don't think anyone prepares you for that scenario.
No,
and you just sort of got to get on with and deal with what's there.
Yeah, no, you do, and it is hard. And it's not until afterwards, when you sit down and you realise about what a bad day that was.
Yeah. And then I think you sort of realise, well, it was a bad day for us, but it was, but then this, person's got a family somewhere, possibly friends, and what drove him to do that, but can't save everybody.
No, this is the problem, and I've seen a lot of things over the years, horrific things, and it does play in your mind.
Yeah.
But I have to try and keep it to the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And you just have to get on with what you've got to do.
Yeah. Definitely.
And but you do have days where, because I've seen horrific things and stuff where it does play up.
Yeah.
And this is where it's important that you do talk to people.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm not criticising the police, because I think the police officers and the sergeants on the ground do a very good job. But we all know they're underfunded, under-resourced.
Yeah, they are.
They've had over the last 15 years a big mission creep in their roles.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff now is falling onto us. Hence the town ranger role and.
Well, this is it, and shoplifting's increased.
Yeah.
Violence towards staff in shops has increased. A lot of shops staff are issued with body cams.
Yeah.
Now, and if you go back 10, 12 years, it wasn't like that.
No.
Cost of living's gone up. It's not just, how can I put it? It's not just homeless people who shoplift, it's all walks of life.
Yeah.
And there's all.
I think that's the biggest misconception, is that some of the people we see shoplifting would shock you.
Yeah. And this is the thing. And it's trying to establish what people are stealing and what they're using it for.
There's so many different reasons. Some people just do it for the buzz.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of money and they're bored, so they just, it's like a game to them. You've got some people that are just on the breadline and it's the only way they see themselves feeding it. You've got some people with addictions, whether that's alcohol addiction, so they're taking the alcohol, or other addictions, so they need to make money, so they're using it to steal. So there's so many variables and so many reasons why people are doing it, and people, I think, like you say, where staff aggression's gone up, or violence towards staff. It's because people are getting more and more desperate.
Yeah, they do, and the trouble is, this time of year, it increases.
Yeah.
Always the run up to Christmas. At the moment, we're flat out.
Yeah.
I've got stock recovery. I've got enough stock recovery receipts here that you would get in a month.
Yeah.
And that's a week's worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just the craziness of it is it's just increased.
Yeah, but then also you're not just dealing with the shoplifters, like you said earlier.
No.
You might have a call for a shoplifter on one end of town, and then you've got an ASB call, or like the other day, kids on a roof somewhere, all kinds of different things. And again, it's not just about catching criminals, and it's people's safety.
Yeah, it is.
Keeping people safe, like you say, going into the shops and trying to keep them safe, and the people that walk around the town. Because I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they said it's getting to the point where they wouldn't let their kids walk around town during the day. And I think that is quite a sad state of affairs, really.
It is, and this is the thing, because you get all walks of life coming into the area, and like, it's not just the police that are stretched, the councils are stretched as well.
Yeah.
You hear about all these councils that are going bust.
Yeah.
It's trying to, like, how can I put it, prioritise the right people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. And you do get round here, you get so many people from out of areas coming here under the assumption they're going to be housed.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't always work. And you don't, I can't imagine what it's like sleeping out on the streets, how cold it is at the moment, and you have got to feel sorry for them.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you've got to have compassion in this
you
job,
have.
otherwise, but you've also got to be able to switch off as well, and it's that balance. But I think that a lot of the problems is, we talk about the police being underfunded, but then it's everything around that as well. Like a lot of stuff that we deal with the shoplifters, and the antisocial behaviour, a lot of it comes down to mental health.
Well, it does. This is it, and
we do our best, but we're not mental health trained to any degree of. We've got a bit of training, which is not adequate. We're not mental health workers or experts, and we've got our own experiences we can draw on. But there's only so much we can do.
It's like for instance, the police roles have changed quite dramatically over the years. You've got like PCSOs who are dealing with police things.
Yeah.
They get pulled away from what they are meant to do.
Yeah.
Like being in the community.
Yeah.
And they get more and more responsibility put onto them.
Yeah.
And everyone blames the police for not being in the place at a certain time, but that's all down to resources.
Yeah.
And being stretched.
And
not having the funding.
And what calls are going on, because we don't know what's going on. You don't know what you don't know. It could be DVs going on. There could be violent assaults. There could be so many different things going on that you can't. A bit like us when we can't find doormen. They can't just wave a magic wand and go. And then, talking to the police officer I speak to off the record and former police officers, that one of the biggest frustrations is the CPS.
Yeah.
Because how many times do you hear it? Oh, the police will do fuck all. The police haven't done this or that. It's not down to the police. It's a lot of it's down to the CPS.
It is,
and they're a separate organisation.
The police can end up putting a case together and submit all the evidence to the courts for the judge to throw it out.
Yeah. Or even the CPS not to bother.
No, but the police officers get frustrated by it.
You imagine if you are a police officer and you've nicked someone for shoplifting, say, or ASB or whatever, a minor offence, but you know full well that as soon as you take that to the CPS, they're just going to drop it because I think the CPS want a 90% conviction rate before they will even take it any further. But if you're a police officer, knowing that, you're not going to waste your time because once you've then taken that suspect, you've got to do your reports. You've got to hold them for and that then takes you out of the field for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours. For nothing comes of it.
No, exactly.
So I think it does. Obviously they can't say it on record, but from the conversations that we have had, I think it does frustrate them.
Yeah, it does.
Because and the trouble is, and again, security sometimes are the same. Is they get attacked left, right, and centre. They get attacked by the media. They get attacked by politicians. They get attacked by the public. And there's no break in that endless cycle.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing. It's very hard to.
And also, it's like you say, we're talking about mission creep. Not only are they underfunded, their scope of what they have to deal with is tenfold. Like you say, they are now also social workers,
Yeah, they are.
mental health workers. Everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah, this is the problem. But I think good thing about it is that they got rid of the degree.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that got scrapped because people weren't applying for the police because as soon as you see that you need a degree in something, it puts you off.
Yeah, definitely.
You can have all the experience under the world, and
again, I think and the police officers that we dealt with, I think to become a good police officer and to some degree a good security officer, I think you do need life experience outside that environment.
Yeah.
You need to have, because at the end of the day, you've got to build rapport with people, and and in this community job we're doing as well, what the police are doing, 9 times out of 10, you're going to meet people that's on their worst day of their life.
Oh yeah, of course.
So you've got to be able to build a rapport with that person, have a bit of sympathy, and engage with that person and try and understand what they're going through. If you've got no life experience, you've never been hurt, you never lost a loved one, or anything, you've got none of that experience behind you, how are you going to empathise with, the person that's just lost their mum and having a breakdown, or the person that's just gone through a breakup, and and you've got to be able to talk to these people and deal with the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where the role I do is working closely with them, and it's not all going in full guns blazing, like trying to put as many people on the floor as you can. It's not like that. You're there as a deterrent. You're there to help the public. You're there to support businesses.
Yeah.
You were there for a roll of things. You like first aid incidents a lot.
No, but it's like if you're taking tackling a shoplifter. There's no point in tackling that shoplifter if you then damage the entire aisle on the shop. Then it's counterproductive to what you're trying to achieve.
Well,
so sometimes you've got to use your brain and talk to people and reason with people.
Yeah. And and you have to follow procedures properly as well.
CYA, cover your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's always procedures that you have to follow with shoplifting, and it's waiting for that moment for them to conceal.
Yeah.
But leaving the premises with failure to pay, and then stopping them.
Yeah.
Because when you stop someone in the store, they haven't left the premises.
And they haven't stolen them.
So they haven't, even though deep down that they're going to nick that item, you know that they are going to walk out that door.
Yeah.
But they haven't left the premises. So you have to follow the procedures spot on.
Yeah, exactly. But
You
even
do.
as security, and at the end, all security is we're civilians that's got a license.
Yeah.
Basically, we don't have any special powers.
No, you don't.
But we still also have to follow PACE,
Yeah, you do.
Police and Evidence Act.
Yeah.
So we still have, rules to follow. But we can't just start locking people up and going in Rambo style. Which yes, there's a lot of red tape and does cause a lot of frustration in some ways, but in other ways it keeps people safe.
Yeah, exactly. And this is it. And I have to use people to my advantage because you've been here helping me, and it was lucky that the funding was there to put in for an addition.
Yeah.
To increase it up to 7-day week.
Yeah, definitely.
Like for 2, but 99% of the time that I'm working on my own.
Yeah, and that's
you've got to use your mouth as the biggest weapon.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
hands-on with people.
Because as soon as you go hands-on, your escalation and your risk element doubles or quadruples.
Well, it does, and the battle's over before it started, if you know what I mean. You go full guns blazing into a situation. Number one, you don't know what you're going into. Number two, if you don't know that person, you don't know background of that person.
Yeah.
Another thing is, how are you to know they're not carrying a weapon of any description?
Yeah.
This is why I make the effort to speak to people.
Yeah.
I get to know all the offenders, and it's listening to them, and they've all got interesting stories.
Yeah.
They haven't been born on the streets feral.
Sometimes you don't know what that person's been through.
No.
They lost a son, a daughter, lost a dad, or they've been abused, or because most addiction generally comes from some sort of abuse or trauma. People generally don't go armed to start shooting heroin up my arms for the sake of it. There's normally some sort of trauma somewhere that kicks it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can sort of sympathise with people, maybe, because I can imagine it's quite a lonely life. So if you can just sympathise with people, you might be able to just give them that 5 minutes of relief.
Well, yeah, and this is the thing, and I've had interesting conversations with people where some people I've spoken to who are out in the streets have had businesses.
Yeah.
They've had houses, they've had cars, and they've lost everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's just how life has been handed to them.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
No, definitely
It's not. It doesn't mean that they're bad people.
No.
They've had bad fortunes in life.
Yeah.
And it's trying to help these people and give them the encouragement and making sure you engage with them and be nice to them.
Yeah.
It's the important thing. And and seeing you as a friendly face, that they come to you.
Yeah.
And they come to you and want to have a chat.
But again, this is where, we're talking about networking and using multi-agencies. If you can network with agencies, so you can network with the council and you can network with X, Y, and Z, this is when you can use your skills and home in and help these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you can, find out what support's out there, you can tell people, if you need a food bank, you can go here, or if you need, a shelter, speak to these people. Something you say, you can't save everybody.
No,
but
you
if you
can't.
can, put the effort in and save one person, or at least give someone a leg up, I think it's then makes the job worthwhile.
And I've made a lot of friends round here doing this job, and working with a lot of the multi-agencies, you all work well together, like I said earlier on, and it's building that relationship.
Yeah.
and them knowing that you're doing all you can
Yeah, exactly.
to try and prevent shoplifting, like make sure that people are safe,
Yeah.
and making sure that the businesses
Yeah.
are following the right procedures,
Yeah.
and giving them advice.
Yeah. Also, I think you're giving the staff the confidence as well, knowing that if something does happen, they do have us available to utilise, and we will, go and back them up. So I think even that, might make it easier, especially for the small businesses as well. For the smaller businesses, shoplifting could be, the difference between them making a profit or a loss.
Well, it's for small independent businesses, it's catastrophic. If you've got someone who's an independent business and they're getting hit bad, it's going to affect them, and in the long run, they're going to end up having to close their business down.
Which then in turn causes more problems, less jobs, less people come to town, the other businesses suffer, less jobs for them, then people go on to benefits, and mental health starts to go, and then it's this vicious cycle, especially for like small towns like Bognor and Blackpool, places like that where the tourism just isn't there anymore.
No,
the high street is dying, so we need to, it's on life support, let's be honest. And you can look at, there's various reasons. You can look at COVID, you can look at business rates, you can look at online shopping. Yeah. We could. That's a whole new topic. Why,
it is.
The high street's dying, but we've got to work with what we've got and try and keep what's there, alive and workable, manageable.
Well, this is it, and I'm lucky enough that I work with some brilliant people, like town councillors, the police, the shops, all the staff, the management. They're all brilliant.
Yeah. And also, it makes our life easier because they tell us things. They say, oh, so and so's been in today. He didn't take anything, but he's around, or. Or this has happened. And we're also, what's good, which I've noticed with you, is you don't just find out what's going on in the town, you find out what's going on in the wider community.
Exactly.
So you know what's going on. If there's been a burglary, we ID'd that guy that was on a door cam.
Yeah.
And we managed to catch up with him. So it's not just about the job itself, it's being aware of outside, what's going on outside.
Yeah, it is, and this is the thing. You do find out a lot of things being on the front line doing this job.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, really, what you do find out.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, what's your plans for next year? Then you got any sort of goals or ambitions, or any plans within the industry or out the industry?
I don't know really. I haven't really thought about it. I'm keen on what I'm doing around town.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, I've only been here a week or so, but from what I've witnessed, it does look like you make a difference to people's lives.
Yeah.
And I think if you can do a job where you're actually making a difference, because I've been on some jobs this year. They've been very high-paying jobs, admittedly some CP jobs, but it hasn't really felt like I was making a difference.
No.
But here it does feel like you are making a difference for the people around. So
it does, and I just want to try and probably improve things round here and try and put ideas across to try and make things better.
Yeah.
But I still do the doors now.
Yeah.
I probably won't ever give that up. No. I enjoy it too much, to be honest.
So if we rewind then, because obviously we talked about what you're doing and how we met and stuff like that. So what got you into the security industry in the first place?
I've done it. I started off doing it as a second job, because by trade I'm a qualified chef.
Right. Okay.
So a lot of people don't know this about me, that I've worked in a lot of high-end restaurants.
Yeah.
I've built businesses up when I was 18 years old. You know, I've got a really good name for myself in the catering industry, and I've met a lot of interesting people, but I always had this as a second job. And I ended up, in the end, after God knows how many years of doing catering, you know, working my 18th, my 21st, not having a life, when all my mates were going out enjoying themselves, I thought to myself, I've got to try and sort something out here, and I ended up getting disheartened with it in the end.
Yeah.
Where I ended up diversing off and doing another career, and this is where I ended up getting into security. So I started off like doing doors and stuff like that, and I worked my way up the ladder over the years to, you know, from a doorman up to 2IC, head doorman, area manager. I've achieved quite a lot doing this job.
I know you've got, I know you're too modest to tell anyone, but I know you've got a couple of recommendations from Sussex Police.
Yeah.
Over, you know, maybe removing knives off people. And
yeah, you know, me and a good friend of mine who I've worked with on the doors for, well, 15 years plus, we ended up getting recommendations of Sussex Police for duty of care by intervening when females were vulnerable to rape, and we could see that there was something going on, and we prevented them getting lured into a position where they could have ended up getting into danger. But
again, that comes back to what we discussed earlier, the duty of care element that we should all have, really.
It is, and you know, making sure that females don't wander off, or males on their own when they're intoxicated, is the most important thing, because they're vulnerable and open to anything.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is read in the paper that someone's been attacked.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
When they've been inside your venue. And you don't want licensing getting involved. You want licensing to see that you're doing a good job.
You want to use licensing as an asset rather than the enemy.
Yeah,
thing, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And you know, the rules are there for a reason.
Yeah.
And you know, despite people might think you're an arsehole because you're not letting them into a venue because they're intoxicated.
You're doing it for their own.
You're doing it for their. You're not doing it because you don't want people in. You're doing it because they're putting themselves at risk.
It's for their own safety.
It's for their own safety.
You know, there's so many elements to that.
Yeah.
You know, even the simplest thing as slips, trips, and falls, right up to being vulnerable in other areas
But
like you just mentioned.
This is it, and you know, if you let someone in who's clearly intoxicated into a licensed premises, and they have some sort of accident, then they go back onto the CCTV and see that you've let them in.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the right thing with the duty of care side of it, and make sure that they stick with friends and that they get this person home safely, you know, and this is where, you know, the industry needs to be looked at more and think that the duty of care side of it is the most important thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So obviously, so going back to obviously you've started as a doorman, 2IC, obviously then into head door positions, and then into area manager roles and running events as well and diversified. So what sort of events have you done?
I've done a lot of festivals. Like I've done quite a few with you. I've done, you know, I've done response teams at football clubs like Premier League clubs. You know, I've done various CP tasks.
Well, response one's an interesting one, isn't it? Because if you speak to people, they either only do response, or people always want response, and people see it as this big, glamorous job, which it is a good job. But again, you are dealing with so many different elements one thing after the other, and that could be. And again, being on response isn't about just having big, stocky blokes pulling people out of festivals and things like that, because you are dealing with welfare issues, intox issues, lost children, depending on the event. So so you're dealing with worried parents. There's so many different elements to it that it's not just as simple as throwing the biggest blokes out there and ragging people out of venues. And again, it's having that knowledge of being able to.
Yeah,
pinpoint.
this is it, and I've done a lot of aspects of security work over the years, and I think I've done it because I wanted to see a different aspect of it all.
Yeah.
Instead of just doors,
Yeah.
I wanted to experience all of it.
Yeah, and I think it gives you a better ground and a better knowledge. So, for example, recently I just done my level 5, and it just gives you a great oversight of how an event works from the other side, from like the operational side. Because when you're a security guard or security, you're normally just like you're doing this, so your searches. That's all you're focused on.
Yeah.
So you just assume that's the only role. But when you are running an event from the security side, of things, you oversee everything. Searches, how that, how quick you get people in, and how well you do the searches and that interaction, and that correlates with how people behave within the festival. Then you got your pit side of things, making sure people at the front of the stage are safest. Your response teams, making sure they're interacting with the crowd, making sure they're, so there's so many different elements to it.
And what I've seen how you run festivals, you're brilliant at it. It's what you specialise in that field.
Yeah.
And I think this is where a lot of people could learn off of you. And I must admit, I've seen how you do things, and I've learned quite a lot just by watching you.
Likewise. But I was very lucky. So when I came into the industry, so I got badged in 2018, done my CP 2019, and obviously 2020 COVID hit.
Yeah.
And just by luck, sheer dumb luck, I ended up on a COVID test site. And there was me and two other civvies, a guy called Sam and another guy called Sol. I think you know Sol actually. Great guys, I still speak to them now. But everyone else, other than me and them two people, everyone else came from a really experienced background, because it was the highest paying job around.
Yeah.
And obviously there was no flights going anywhere. So all these CP guys that normally go out to Iraq or Afghan or stuff like that couldn't get out anywhere. So I was working with PADP guys, RASPA guys, Royal Military Police, Royal Marines, even one guy from SRR, which is Special Forces Regiment that no one really knows much about, but they specialise in reconnaissance. So working with him, working with, so it was a mixture of police and military, but like Marines and paras. So I tried to be a sponge of them and just sort of listen to how they interact with each other, and how they things like how they use their radios and how they act and how they come to their decision making and stuff like that. And I think that then gave me a very good ground knowledge. I then started doing a bit of work with Specialised, and I really rate them in terms of how they do things, and they are one of FR's biggest clients, so they do it for many years. They're obviously doing something right, but the way they run things, and again when we're talking about welfare, how they look after the staff with welfare, how I'm not in the loop with them as a lot of other people are. I haven't done that many with them, but I've done enough to learn, and how they are like a family. And that word gets banded around quite a lot in any job, but Specialised are. Unfortunately, they lost one of their people. Very unfortunately, quite a youngish guy as well, and everyone just rallies round. And I learned a lot of them. And there's a guy that does all their backstages called Bruce. Again, he's someone that I'm always on the phone to. So I've been lucky and fortunate enough to have all these people. There's another guy, Brooksy, ex-para, but does a lot of CP in Africa. You know, again, he's someone I speak to most days. He's a close friend of mine now.
Yeah.
He was actually on the podcast. So I've been very, very fortunate to have that element. And then I've come across people like you, people like Dean, people like, Will Heenan, all these different people who have given me a different perspective.
Yeah, and this is what I was getting back to. I've learned a lot of all these people as well.
Yeah.
And it's getting different ideas and different approaches.
And it doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't. And this is the thing.
And I think you can learn someone that's just freshly badged, and you can learn someone that's been in the industry for 20 years, and you can learn different things as well.
Yeah, you do, and this is it. Like I said earlier on during this, you never stop learning.
Yeah.
And if you go in with the attitude that I know what I'm doing, no one needs to tell me, then it will just backfire on you.
No, exactly.
It will, and
I remember there's a person. I'm not going to mention them, but she was she had potential to be a good security officer or a good security operator, whatever you want to say. And she was 2IC at Revs, and then the head doorman had to take time off due to COVID, so she was promoted. And I tried to give her advice. I paired her with people that could advise her. And just no one, she wouldn't listen to anybody around her because she thought she knew it, or she was good, and she had the opportunity to be very good, but didn't listen to people around her. And then in the end, that became a downfall because she made a mistake. She asked someone to work that didn't work for the company and had a drink as well, and that got spotted, and it went up the chain of command. If she called me, there were steps I could have taken. I could have backdated it and rolled this person onto the company, so they were there. But because it went, it went above my head, there's not a lot I could have done at that point.
And this is the thing, isn't it? I think you end up having to learn by your own mistakes.
Oh, and that's big time.
And we've all made mistakes, like you said. You've made mistakes, I've made mistakes, but it's picking yourself up, admitting that you've cocked up, and sorting out how you're going to improve.
Yes.
And you're never going to get it right, regardless.
No.
Whatever you do, there's always going to be like a downside to something. But
I think it's the ability to self-criticise, take advice of people that, I don't take criticism of people I want to get advice from.
No.
But taking the criticism
like
of the right
constructive
people.
criticism,
Of the right people, because everyone will criticise you, but you've got to look at the people that are criticising you for the sake of it, or the people that are ringing around just stirring the pot for the sake of it, or people that generally, appreciate you, and then, taking the advice on board, and then hopefully passing that down as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's getting to the point where people, and it does humble me every time, but there's been a few times where people have come to me for advice or come to me for help, whether that's getting clients, recruitment, running events. There's been times when, like the job we've done at Eastleigh, because said company in Southampton cocked it up, didn't go to any licensing meetings or anything like that. We had 4 days to turn it around. And we've done a really good job. And I had a phone call saying, can you run this event this weekend? And we made it work. But that's off the back of all the help and advice I've got. And I still am lucky enough to have access to that, because I think one of the biggest things is knowing your own limits. Not saying yes to things that you cannot do.
I think this is it. I think you've got to be honest with people, and if you can't fulfil something, then you've got to tell them straight. instead of leading them up the garden path and saying, yeah, I can supply X, Y, and Z for you, and then letting them down at the last minute.
See, I've done a bit of CP work, but I wouldn't call myself a proper CP officer. And if someone rang me up and said, would you be Taylor Swift's PPA? You know, I'm not that will ever happen, but I'm not going to take that job on because I know I haven't got that training or that mindset. It's the same as doing anything hostile. You know, there was one guy, a friend of mine, and he keeps badgering me to do a firearms course, but you know, if I did it, it would just be for a hoo-ha because I know full well I'm never going to go hostile, and even if I had that opportunity, I'm going to reject it because it's even if I coped, you're still putting the man next to you in danger because I haven't had that training. You know, people that have served in the military or in AFOs and SFOs have had years and years and years of training in all sorts of environments, and I've never had that. You know, a week's course isn't going to teach you.
No, of course it's not, and you know, it's like it's a completely different level.
Yeah.
And this is why, you know, with say like, how can I put it, security, like for like royalty.
Yeah, the RASPA guys.
You know, you know, they're all like special forces, ex-special forces.
Yeah.
They've got military experience.
Yeah.
They've been like firearms trained in all fields.
But you know, like I touched on earlier, I've been very fortunate to work with RASPA is a bit of an exaggeration, but work kind of alongside them. But be close enough to see what they do. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, they are incredibly good at what they do. They're so professional, and I think really for the CP side, RASPA are probably the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
You know, RASPA and PADP, so RASPA is Royal and Specialist Protection, and PADP is Parliamentary Diplomatic Protection. So they're similar roles but different units within the Met. But they are very good at, and they will be able to see things, sense things, you know, from a million miles away.
Yeah, exactly. And this is it. And they, you know, it's what they specialise in, and what they're trained to do.
I mean, how many times have you been? I just laugh. I had one recently actually. How many times have you been on the job going, oh, I've looked after Princess so and so, and you just know. You know, I had a guy who was at the boat show, he's not going to name the company, but this guy tried telling me, oh, I'm looking after Princess Anne today. Bearing in mind, I've worked on a lot of royal jobs, so I know it's absolute bollocks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been...
No, I must admit, I've enjoyed, you know, there's such a lot more we could talk about, but...
Yeah, time is
just
of
time.
the essence. Yeah,
time's getting on
but
now.
you know, you're more than welcome to come on the podcast again.
No, love it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.